What's going on, guys? Welcome back on the 71 Nova. So today we're going to try to make the driver side cowl panel look like the passenger side. So there is the passenger side. As you can see, it looks mostly done if you ignore the clamps. So this, let me back away a little bit. This piece right here, this is all in, welded in to the rocker support. The only place it's not is to the firewall right here. The outer panel here, the cover, that's just clamped on right now. I still want to be able to get inside the plenum from in there before I put that on for good. So that's just fit on there right now. But that side at least looks mostly done. Nice to see new metal on the car. This side is still ugly. So we've got to do something about that. So we've got the old piece out, as you can see, and we got a lot of cleanup work to do. So on the flanges there, we still have a little bit of metal we gotta clean off, get it down to bare metal, get rid of the rust. Up here, you know, that's just thin sheet metal. A couple holes we gotta clean up, and the back side of the firewall just needs a little bit, nothing too bad. The brace in here, again, not too bad. It's all surface rust. I did pull through a little bit in a couple spots right there. I'll have to go in and fill those in with a welder and then grind them down flush. We'll just do that right before we wire wheel and clean all the rust off. The only thing we have to do, the only big thing we have to do is figure out this right here. So the new panel goes in and goes underneath this. So these holes aren't really a big concern. They'll be sitting on top of the new panel. You can fill those in pretty easily. They're oversized and oddly shaped, but they'd essentially just act like plug weld holes anyway. Not too big of a deal. Over here, it's folded up to get it out, but it's not too bad. So on the other side was much, much worse. I actually ended up zipping all this off a couple inches up, putting the new panel in, and then just taking a piece of sheet metal and bending it and folding it to shape, laying it over top, stitch welding it back in here, and then spot welding it and some added stitch welds to the new piece. I don't think I'm gonna do that on this one unless I have to. I'm not fully sold on what I'm gonna do. I think what we're gonna do is fold all this back down and then maybe put one little cut right here just to give us a little bit extra flexibility as far as folding this out of the way, just a little bit, because the new panel, the arch on it, the fold on it is a little bit wide. It needs to be a little bit, come down a little bit, which I'll show you when I go to put it in. But having the ability to move that piece out of the way just a little bit more will give us just that much more flexibility. So I'm gonna get you guys set up on the tripod and we'll start cleaning up all of this, filling these holes in, prepping all of our weld surfaces, and I'll make a decision sometime in that time about what we're gonna do in here. So let me get you guys on the tripod. All right. Well, we're gonna start with trying to fill in our holes on the brace, and then we'll clean up the welds and clean up the rust, and hopefully, I got new metal going on soon. Always exciting. So we've gotten a fair amount done. Holes are filled. They still need to be ground down flush just a little bit, but they're filled. Just gotta get the small grinder in there. These two guys right here, this one and this one up here, those are all ground down to bare metal. This flange, this outer flange here, not totally done, but most of the rust is at least knocked off of it. And it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it is down to, you know, nice, good, shiny metal. A couple spots where I gotta clean up some leftover material from the old cowl. There's a pretty big chunk down here, yeah, right here. So I gotta get that cleaned up, but our plug welds through here are knocked down quite a bit. Probably just take them down a little bit further, and I haven't messed with that just yet. So I'm gonna keep on keeping on, and I'll bring you guys back once we have it all cleaned up and just show you what the end result was. All right, guys, it's a new day. Did some work off camera because this panel, which is just fit up with clamps and sheet metal screws right now, this panel fought me, and it fought me hard. I'll show you guys a little bit of what's going on. Oh, sorry for the noise. So this is what we've got inside of here. A little bit tight, I just don't have enough room to back up. So in here, this fold is sitting up really high. It's kind of over top of the plenum, which needs to go underneath that. So that's gonna need a little bit of work done, a little bit of adjustment. In here, I did make some relief cuts there and over here, just so I could fold this down a little bit more, and it still needs to go down further. It's sitting up high back there, as you can see, which I had a little bit of that problem on the other side. There was a little bit of overhang right here, just coming around the door jamb. That's not too big of a deal, that's a pretty easy fix, but the problem I was running into is this here was exactly where it wanted to be. It was flush up against the firewall. It was nice and square. We were tight down here to the rocker support, so that was good. But back here, where this goes in the door jamb, was just way, way too far forward. And the frustrating thing about that is I can't really, I mean, it's going to the rocker support, which I just put in, but the firewall hasn't changed, at least that part of the firewall that it's pushed up against, and the door jamb hasn't changed, but it fit one spot, not the other. So that's just variances in the stamping on these stamped sheet metal parts, and you'll see that. I use all AMD panels, so they're good, but you're still gonna run into that no matter what. None of these cars are the same, none of these panels are the same, and I ran into it like a brick wall this time. So we've got some more cutting and fitting to do, but it's pretty good right now. The height is good. The placement front to back is pretty good. The only thing I need to check is right in here, behind here, and one down here. Down here, there is a brace in the door jamb that you drill holes right in here and just plug weld to, just to hold it solid with the door jamb. And then you obviously would spot weld all the way around the flange on the door jamb right there. So I gotta make sure that those are gonna make contact. On the other side, I had to do a little bit of just a couple of relief, like maybe one relief cut, push it back a little bit further, and then just weld it back up. Again, that gets all hidden off by the outer panel, obviously, so not too big of a deal as long as it's making contact and you can weld it solid. So I've got a little bit more screwing around to do with that just to get it where I want it. Some cutting, some creative fitting, and I did end up, you can't see it too, oh you can. I did end up cutting the plenum back. Actually, it's right here. Just because that stuck out so far and the new piece was sitting up so high, I needed it out of the way. So we're gonna do the same thing we did on the other side, where we'll get the outer cowl fit up, get it laying where it wants to lay, and then I'll just cut a piece of sheet metal, lay it over top, and butt weld it to the existing plenum, and then spot weld it, and I'll probably stitch weld it to the new piece down here. And that should be good and solid, and I'll get seam sealed, painted, hidden away, so no worries there. So I'm gonna keep messing with this. It's just some really, really ugly, nasty work that isn't fun for anyone. So I'll bring you guys back when I've got this thing fitting a little bit better, and we'll talk about what it took to make it happen. Wow, so that piece was stubborn. I'm gonna spin you guys around and show you what we're dealing with. It's off the car right now. All right. So she's off, she's all scuffed, and holes are punched for plug welds, and she's ready to get coated, but it'll stand up on its own. No, of course not. So there's a big giant relief cut in there. Actually, I augered some of that out just a little bit and cleaned it up, but that was all to, let me stand this up. There we go. all of this was to allow this to fold down more. This piece was standing up very, very high, very tall. The roll, the radius wasn't nearly as tight as it needed to be to get it down low. So this piece was actually sitting above the plenum on the car, and it needs to go underneath. So that was one adjustment. I'm actually gonna just cut a piece of sheet metal and just to fit that up and close that off a little bit. Again, that's not a massive deal, but just seal it off. It was supposed to be sealed off. We'll make sure it goes on the car sealed off. I also had to, so the other issue we ran into was I had to, all this in here had to get basically pushed out and spread. Like this was all this side was too tight to the back piece, and the outer panel didn't want to fit on there. If it was fit here where it was supposed to be, it was actually sitting over this lip. There's a lip right there. If you guys can see right, maybe see better from this side. Not really. There's a lip right here that it needs to sit inside of, and it was laying over top of it. So that was a big struggle. And not much more to see on the car. I did talk about, I cut this. Now that I've got this right here. Now that I've got the panel laying where it wants to lay, or where I need it to lay, once I get it in, I can just cut a piece of sheet metal and fill that gap in, and it will serve the same purpose and be just fine. So I'm gonna try to set you guys up and see if we can get this thing on the car so I can show you how much better it is than it was before. Started. Let's get all these started. So the other problem is I had a couple of screw holes in each one of these. What am I doing? Because I thought I had it where I wanted it, and then I didn't like where it was. So now I've got the fun task of trying to make sure I get the right screws fit up. Like that one's got to go way in. There we go. I think that's all of them. All right, just to show you what we're dealing with. So, steady. She's now much, much, much happier. The firewall will push in. It's at a good height up here. I had to trim all of this back here. This was just overlaying the outside of the door jamb just a little bit, so that was no big deal. Trim that back, and with some clamps. This moves a little bit, just by hand. So clamps, and that will sit flush. That's all ready to go. Yeah, you can see it moving a little bit right there. We're tight to the door, or to the cutout on the rocker support, the little lip that's right there. And I'll plug weld that from the inside. And now if you look up here, if it's not too dark, you can kind of see, if I can get down low enough, that this is sitting just below this plenum. I gotta beat that ugliness back down and maybe cut that out and make it part of my patch piece. But this is sitting down just below where it needs to. So I'll get this all welded in, and then we'll cut a piece that'll basically just bend up and fold, and we'll stitch weld it to the plenum. And it'll overlay all this, and I'll just, fold it down across, weld it to this after this seam is done. Seam sealer, paint, covered up by the outer cover. Can't even really see it from the top because it's way down there in the corner. And you will never, ever know the difference, and it will be nice and solid. No leaks. All the rust will be out of there. And she'll be good as new. So I'm gonna pull this back off. I'm gonna tape off my bare metal, coat everything. All the rust is blowing off the inside of the door jamb, so that's ready to go. Coat everything and on both the car and on the new piece. And I'll bring you guys back when it's going in and we start burning her in for good. And we're back. New day. I'm gonna spin you guys around and show you where we're at because we are ready to put some metal in the car. So in here's been all prepped, epoxied, weld through primer, and I'll bring you guys over here to the paint booth. Same thing, so new piece, weld through primer. It's got non-welding primer just in all the spots that aren't gonna get welded on. That's underneath the weld through. Oop. It's gonna be in the way. It's very good. Plug weld holes all drilled. We did end up just filling this in, made a little piece for that, just stitched it in there. So that doesn't have a big gaping hole anymore. You can see from this side, the back side. We haven't done anything inside here other than scuff, but we'll paint that later. And inside the car here, we also cut, just a piece of sheet metal that just kind of fits up in there, about like that. So what we'll do is we'll get the panel on the car and get it all welded in without the outer cover on, and then this will lay right over top, right into its home. We'll stitch it along the top on the seam with a plenum, and then we'll weld it on the bottom here to the new panel. So I'm gonna get you guys set up on the tripod, get everything where I want it as far as my tools and stuff, and we'll pop this piece right there. Pop that piece on the car and we'll start burning her in for good. So been a long journey. I'm ready to have this done because this thing did not cooperate at all and I'm tired of working on it. So let's get her done. Welder's all set up. Hopefully the buzzing isn't too close to the camera. It's like 5 feet behind, so we'll see. Sorry if your view sucks a little bit. I played around with a few different camera locations and you were either blocked out or you will be blocked out by the cowl panel when it goes up right there, or you're blocked out by me, and I figured you'd rather look at the cowl panel, the new piece, than look at me. So that's where we are, but we'll go in and take a look at it when it's all done. All right, let's get this thing in the car. Boy, I can't wait to find out that everything moved. So, all over the place. So I'll plug welded right up there. We're gonna knock those down, make them look better. Plug welded the brace. Those 4 in the front are actually, I drilled those for plug welds after I marked it, which is just inexcusable, and then realized that I overmarked it and my plug welds were going to nothing. So those are just holes that are filled in, but those 5 behind there are going to the brace inside the car. Welded down there to the rocker support, in there to the big braces in the door jamb, and then all along the side there to the door jamb. Those ones especially will get knocked down because that's right where the outer cover sits. So those will get knocked down, and we'll probably just, I'm not gonna do too much of the other ones because those will get covered up and you'll never see them again. But we will scuff in here, paint in here, and I need to come back and put that piece on, which I don't really feel like doing right now, but I guess we gotta do it. So yeah, she's in and she looks good. I got a couple more to do inside the car too. You can't see the holes, but right here in the arch, there's plug welds on the inside. That's where it welds to the rocker support as well. Just a little added structure. I'll get those later. There's no good way to get inside the car right now, not for someone of my stature. So we'll do that later, but I'm gonna screw around getting that patch piece fit that fell somewhere. You see it? It's inside the car somewhere. I'm gonna screw around getting that fit nicely, a little hammering, just a little bit of screwing around, and we'll come back, weld that thing in, and show you guys a finished product and talk about what's coming. All right, guys, it's a little bit later. Ate dinner, put the kids to bed, and right back out here working, finishing up. So where we left it, the panel's on the car, and we've just been oops, my light's going nuts here. We've just been putting, that's a little glary. They're putting that patch piece in, so you can see it right here. Just butt welded it here and plug welded it to the new panel. A few ugly welds to clean up. Had a little bit of a gap over here in the corner. So we'll grind that down. And up in the top corner, you can kind of see, oh, that's not gonna help, right up here. Didn't quite finish that. The angle I had was horrible. So we'll get that from inside the car later. I don't feel like laying on my back on the tow board with no floor underneath the driver's feet. So we'll get that later. Not a big deal. So that is all done. We're just like the other side. We're gonna hold off on putting the outer cover on because I still need to get inside the dash plenum to sand it and get all the ugly stuff out of it. There's about 4 different colors and textures inside of there. We've actually started to sand some of that down. You can see a little bit. Bare metal there, and just trying to smooth out the edges so we can primer that and paint that one solid color and get rid of that textured stuff. I don't know if it was undercoating or what, but it's something ugly. So that's what we'll be working on in the future. I don't know if that'll be the next video or not, but I know the next video or two is going to be a lot of odds and ends and kind of nitty gritty ugly work, but it should lead to the car actually starting to look like something. I think the next thing we're actually going to do is pull the steering column out, pull this piece off, which is only held on with 2 screws, and we got to work it just a little bit because this cutout here just doesn't quite match up to the new hole with the replacing the bottom half of the firewall. So we'll make that work, drill a couple holes, and then the steering column boot can mount properly. So that's coming. But once that's done, if you look at the firewall, it's actually been wire wheeled for the most part. A couple more things to clean up, and I got to clean up the driver's side a little bit more. But yeah, once that shift boot mount is taken care of, I got some primer, just some red oxide, nothing fancy, definitely not a final coat, but we'll finish cleaning up the firewall and the top of the cowl all up here, and we'll get all of this one color. It won't be the prettiest color, but it'll be one color, and this thing has not been one color I don't know how many years, how many decades even. It's got black, red, purple, whatever color seam sealer they use to fill holes, and body filler has been the prominent colors in this thing. So seeing the front of the car all one color will be really, really kind of nice. So yeah, that plenum, And in the not so distant future, floor pan. So we're working on getting that ordered too. So we'll do some of the ugly work, get that knocked out while we're waiting on a floor pan, and that'll be the next big piece to go in. So you're not gonna wanna miss that. Car's really coming along quick. It's a constant struggle. This cowl panel really beat the hell out of me, and I'm just glad to have it done. So moving on, and just keep on keeping on. So thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Like, comment down below. Let me know how much of all the ugly work you want to see, because I'm going to film it, but we'll see how it comes out and how much I actually want to put up. But if you guys want to see it, I'll keep putting it up. So please subscribe, follow along, and more coming. Someday it'll look like a car. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.